What if the person who saved your life wasn't a doctor, but someone passing you the potato salad at church? Rachel Morrison's hands trembled as she reached for the serving spoon. The metal rattled against the ceramic bowl rim like a tambourine she couldn't control. Across the fellowship hall table, Jennifer Hayes watched those shaking hands with the trained eye of someone who'd spent 15 years in an ICU. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting their harsh glow across long tables covered in mismatched floral tablecloths. Children's laughter echoed off concrete walls. Metal folding chairs scraped across linoleum. Jennifer's gaze fixed on Rachel's fingers. They couldn't grip properly. The tremor was worse than last month. Worse than last year. The serving spoon clattered again. Something was deeply wrong. Rachel Morrison had been a force of nature once. At 38, she juggled third-grade lesson plans, her daughter's soccer schedule, her son's baseball practices, and the church children's choir with energy that made other mothers shake their heads in amazement. She was the teacher who organized field trips nobody else would attempt, the mom who never missed a game. That woman had vanished 37 months ago. The fatigue came first, settling into Rachel's bones like wet concrete. She'd wake up exhausted after 10 hours of sleep. Simple tasks, grocery shopping, folding laundry, standing through a church service, left her drained for days. Her husband Tom watched helplessly as she faded. Their 12-year-old daughter Emma learned to make boxed macaroni. Their 9-year-old son Lucas stopped asking Mom to play catch. Dr. Mitchell diagnosed chronic fatigue syndrome after ruling out thyroid problems and anemia. Rest, he said. Gentle exercise, stress management. Maybe some antidepressants to help with the adjustment. Rachel followed every recommendation. She got worse. Joint pain arrived 6 months in, settling into her knees and elbows and fingers like rusty hinges. Then the shaking started. Her handwriting became illegible. Grading papers took twice as long. She dropped her coffee mug 3 mornings in a row before switching to plastic. Dr. Mitchell added fibromyalgia to her chart. New medications. Physical therapy. A referral to a pain specialist. Nothing helped. By month 12, Rachel had reduced her teaching to part-time. By month 18, she couldn't swallow solid food without effort. By month 24, she'd lost 22 pounds and ran a persistent low-grade fever that doctors couldn't explain. Blood tests came back within normal ranges. Scans showed nothing alarming. "You're doing this to yourself," one specialist suggested. "Stress manifests physically. Have you considered therapy?" Rachel had considered everything. She'd prayed until her prayers felt like words thrown at a brick wall. Tom held her through nights when the pain kept her awake. The church prayer list included her name every single week. Friends organized meal trains and cleaning rotations. The pastor visited monthly, with encouraging verses and well-meaning platitudes. But Rachel kept disappearing. By month 36, her world had shrunk to her bedroom and doctor's offices. She'd taken a full leave of absence from teaching. She'd stopped leading children's choir. Most days, she managed to shower and dress. Some days, even that felt impossible. Tom found her crying in the bathroom one Tuesday morning, staring at her reflection. "I don't recognize myself anymore," she whispered. He pulled her close, his own eyes wet, and had no words to offer. The church potluck happened 1 month later. Rachel had decided not to go. What was the point? She'd sit in a corner, too exhausted for conversation, watching everyone else live the life she used to have. But Emma had begged. "Please, Mom, I made brownies all by myself. I want people to try them." So Rachel went, moving through the church parking lot like someone twice her age. The September evening was mild, but she wore a cardigan anyway. She was always cold now. Inside, the smell of overcooked green bean casserole and sweet tea mixed with the chatter of 100 conversations. Emma rushed off to set her brownies on the dessert table. Tom guided Rachel to a chair near the serving line. "Just 30 minutes," he murmured. "Then we can leave." Rachel managed a weak smile. She could do 30 minutes. The line moved slowly. Paper plates sagged under the weight of fried chicken and casseroles and dinner rolls. Rachel took small portions of everything, knowing she'd barely touch any of it. Swallowing had become an ordeal. Eating in public, worse. She reached for the serving spoon in the green bean casserole. Her hand shook so badly, the spoon clattered against the rim. Green beans scattered across the tablecloth. Heat flooded her face. She tried again, failed again. "Here, let me help." Jennifer Hayes appeared at her elbow, steadying Rachel's hand with her own. Together they managed to scoop a small portion onto Rachel's plate. "Thank you," Rachel whispered, shame burning in her throat. Jennifer said nothing. But her eyes, sharp, assessing, trained, took in everything. The unsteady grip. The weight loss visible beneath Rachel's loose sweater. The way she turned her whole body instead of just her neck. The faint rash on her neck that had been there for months. Jennifer had seen this constellation of signs before. 7 years ago, a patient in the ICU, a woman everyone thought had chronic fatigue. Until she didn't. Rachel made it to a table and picked at her food while Tom talked with other men about football. Emma brought over her brownies, beaming with pride. Rachel took a small bite and struggled to swallow it. Across the room, Jennifer Hayes stood with her own plate untouched, her mind racing through medical textbooks and case studies. The pieces assembled themselves in her head. Not chronic fatigue, not fibromyalgia, something rare, something progressive. Something that mimicked other conditions so perfectly that doctors missed it for years. Something treatable. Jennifer's heart hammered against her ribs. She could be wrong. She probably was wrong. She was a nurse, not a doctor. What right did she have to question years of medical evaluations? But the patient 7 years ago had presented exactly like this. The uncontrolled movement. The swallowing difficulties. The joint pain. The rash. All dismissed as stress or fatigue. That patient had died. The correct answer came too late. Mixed connective tissue disease had ravaged her organs before anyone recognized the signs. Jennifer had stood at her bedside during those final days, watching the family's grief, wishing someone had noticed sooner, wishing she had noticed sooner. She wouldn't miss it twice. Jennifer threw away her untouched plate and crossed the room. Rachel sat hunched over her food, exhaustion written in every line of her body. Tom had wandered off to refill his sweet tea. Emma and Lucas chased other kids between tables. Rachel looked up as Jennifer approached. Her eyes held the hollow look of someone who'd stopped hoping. "Can we talk?" Jennifer asked, sliding into the empty chair beside her. Rachel's living room looked like a library had exploded. Medical journals covered the coffee table. Printouts from research databases carpeted the floor. Handwritten timelines sprawled across yellow legal pads. Jennifer Hayes sat cross-legged on the carpet at 2:47 in the morning, her laptop screen glowing blue-white in the darkness. She'd been at this for 72 hours. The tick of the wall clock marked seconds. Coffee grew cold in the mug beside her. Her fingers cramped from typing, but she couldn't stop. Every search led to another article. Every article confirmed her suspicion. Rachel Morrison didn't have chronic fatigue syndrome. Jennifer pulled up another case study. A 41-year-old woman. Progressive fatigue, joint pain, difficulty swallowing, hand tremors, persistent low-grade fever. Misdiagnosed for 4 years. By the time they identified mixed connective tissue disease, her heart and lungs had sustained permanent damage. Jennifer's hands stilled on the keyboard. That could be Rachel in another year, another 6 months even. She thought about the phone call she'd made the evening after the potluck. Rachel, I know this sounds strange, but would you let me look at your medical timeline? All your test results, everything the doctors have said? Rachel's laugh had been bitter. Why? You think you'll see what a dozen specialists missed? Maybe, Jennifer had said quietly. Or maybe I'm completely wrong. But I knew someone once with similar signs. And I need to know I'm wrong, please. The desperation in Jennifer's voice must have registered, Rachel agreed. Now Jennifer assembled the puzzle pieces. Month 1, fatigue. Month 3, joint pain in hands and knees. Month 6, tremors begin. Month 9, difficulty swallowing. Month 12, rash appears on neck and chest. Month 18, Raynaud's phenomenon, fingers turning white in cold temperatures. Month 24, persistent fever, unexplained weight loss. Every marker pointed in the same direction. Mixed connective tissue disease, a rare autoimmune disorder that combined features of lupus, scleroderma, and polymyositis. It mimicked other conditions so perfectly that patients went years, sometimes decades, without proper recognition. Without treatment, it attacked the heart, lungs, kidneys. Progressive, potentially fatal, but treatable, if caught in time. Jennifer highlighted passages in a medical journal, her pulse quickening. The diagnostic test was simple. A blood test for anti-U1-RNP antibodies. Rachel had never been tested for it. Years of blood work, and nobody had ordered this specific panel. She pulled up another case study, then another. The pattern repeated: misdiagnosis, delayed treatment, permanent organ damage, or worse. The memory of her husband flooded back without warning. 4 years ago, cancer had taken him in 6 brutal months. Jennifer had stood at his bedside using every piece of medical knowledge she possessed, and it hadn't been enough. She'd prayed until her voice went hoarse. She'd bargained with God. She'd begged. He died anyway. She'd questioned everything after that. Her faith, her career, the point of medical knowledge if it couldn't save the person who mattered most. Attending church had become an act of defiance against her own doubt. She showed up. She served. She went through the motions. But she felt distant from God, angry at God, confused by God. Maybe that's why she noticed Rachel. Because she knew what it felt like to suffer, while everyone around you offered platitudes. Because she understood the isolation of chronic illness. Because she couldn't save her husband, but maybe she could save someone else. Jennifer closed her laptop and picked up her phone. 3 a.m, too early to call. But she typed out a text message anyway. Rachel, I think I know what's wrong. Can I come over tomorrow? I want to show you something. The response came faster than expected. Can't sleep either. Come now if you want. Jennifer grabbed her research and drove through empty streets to the Morrison home. Rachel answered the door in her bathrobe, shadows under her eyes, leaning heavily against the doorframe. They spread the research across the dining room table. Jennifer walked Rachel through every article, every case study, every matching sign. Rachel's hands shook as she read, but not from her condition this time. This is me, she whispered. This is exactly me. Why didn't anyone test for this? It's rare, Jennifer said. Most doctors go their whole career without seeing a case. And the signs look so much like other conditions that they stop looking, Rachel finished. Her voice cracked. I've lost so much time. Jennifer reached across the table and gripped Rachel's unsteady hand. But we might have caught it before permanent damage. The treatment works if we start now. But Rachel, you need to see a specialist, a rheumatologist who knows this disease. And you need to advocate hard. Your regular doctor might dismiss this." Rachel's eyes hardened with determination Jennifer hadn't seen there in months. "Will you come with me?" Rachel asked. "To the appointment? I need someone who'll fight." Jennifer nodded. "I'll be there." Dr. Mitchell's office smelled like antiseptic and old magazines. The examining table crinkled beneath its paper covering. A blood pressure cuff hung limp on the wall. He flipped through Jennifer's research with thinly veiled skepticism, his reading glasses perched on his nose. Rachel sat rigid in the exam chair. Jennifer stood behind her like a sentinel. "Mrs. Morrison has been thoroughly evaluated," Dr. Mitchell said, his pen tapping against the desk. "Multiple specialists have confirmed chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia. These are legitimate findings supported by the absence of other explanations," Jennifer interrupted. Her voice was polite but firm. "But she's never been tested for anti-U1-RNP antibodies. She's never seen a rheumatologist who specializes in rare autoimmune disorders. Her condition is progressing despite treatment, which suggests the diagnosis might be incomplete." Dr. Mitchell removed his glasses. "Are you a doctor, Ms. Hayes?" "No," Jennifer said, "but I'm an ICU nurse with 15 years of experience. And I've seen this presentation before. The patient died because we missed it. I won't watch that happen again." The room fell silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Rachel's breathing was shallow. Her hands twisted together in her lap. Dr. Mitchell studied Jennifer for a long moment. Then he sighed and pulled out his prescription pad. "I'll write a referral to Dr. Patricia Chen at the University Medical Center. She specializes in complex autoimmune cases. But, Mrs. Morrison, I don't want you to get your hopes up. We've explored many possibilities already." Rachel's voice was steel. "This is one more. Write the referral." Dr. Chen's office had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Afternoon sunlight streamed across her desk, warm and golden. Modern art hung on cream-colored walls. She listened to Rachel's history without interrupting, her eyes attentive. She examined the rash on Rachel's neck with gentle fingers. She studied Rachel's hands as they shook. She read Jennifer's research with interest, not dismissal. Then she ordered blood work. 2 weeks felt like 2 years. Rachel moved through her days in a fog of anxiety and fragile hope. Tom held her at night and prayed out loud, his voice steady even when hers broke. Jennifer called every evening just to check in. The church prayer warriors doubled down, covering Rachel's name in intercession. The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon. Rachel sat at her kitchen table, sun streaming through the window, warming the worn wood beneath her hands. Dr. Chen's voice came through the speaker, calm and matter-of-fact. "Mrs. Morrison, your test results are back. You have mixed connective tissue disease. Your anti-U1-RNP antibodies are significantly elevated, and the pattern confirms it." Rachel sank deeper into the chair. Tom rushed to her side, his hand finding hers. "Is it? Can you treat it?" "Yes," Dr. Chen said. "We caught it before permanent organ damage. We'll start aggressive treatment immediately, immunosuppressants and corticosteroids, to stop the progression. With proper management, you should see significant improvement within weeks." Rachel pressed a hand over her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. Not from grief, this time. From relief so overwhelming it felt like surfacing after being underwater too long. Tom wrapped his arms around her. Jennifer, listening on speakerphone, wiped her own eyes in her car parked outside the hospital. "Thank you," Rachel managed to say. "Thank you for believing me. Thank you for not giving up." Dr. Chen's voice softened. "Thank your friend. She's the one who saw what we all missed." The medication made Rachel sick at first. Nausea, dizziness, the metallic taste of corticosteroids coating her tongue. But underneath the side effects, something remarkable happened. The shaking eased. Week 3, Rachel picked up a pen and wrote her name without it looking like a child's scribble. Week 4, she made dinner. Actual cooking, not reheating, for the first time in 2 years. Week 6, she walked around the block without needing to rest afterward. Week 8, she cried in the bathroom again. But this time Tom found her laughing through her tears, staring at her reflection. "I see myself again," she whispered. "I'm coming back." The church celebrated like she'd risen from the dead. Maybe she had. Jennifer downplayed her role, uncomfortable with attention. But Rachel wouldn't let her hide. "You saved my life," she said, in front of the entire congregation one Sunday morning. "You saw me when I'd become invisible. You fought when I had no fight left." Jennifer's cheeks flushed. She thought about her husband, about standing at his bedside, helpless, about questioning whether God heard her prayers or cared about her pain. Maybe this was the answer. Not the answer she wanted. Her husband was still gone, but an answer nonetheless. God had used her suffering to sharpen her attention, her grief to make her fierce, her medical knowledge to save a life. She felt something loosen in her chest, something that had been clenched tight for 4 years. Maybe God hadn't abandoned her after all. 6 months after starting treatment, Rachel returned to her classroom, part-time at first, testing her limits. The children cheered when she walked through the door. She stood at the whiteboard with a dry erase marker gripped firmly in her steady hand, and she cried happy tears, while 23 third graders watched with wide eyes. "Welcome back, Mrs. Morrison," one little boy said solemnly. "We missed you very much." "I missed me too," Rachel said, and laughed at the truth of it. The alphabet letters on her bulletin board had never looked so beautiful. The artwork covering the walls had never seemed so bright. The sound of pencils scratching on paper and children's voices reading aloud filled something in Rachel that had been hollow for years. She regained 15 pounds. Then 20. Color returned to her cheeks. She still had bad days. The disease was manageable, not cured, but bad days were different when they weren't every day. By month 12, she was back to full-time teaching, back to leading children's choir, back to volunteering for the church cleanup crew. Not the same as before. Wiser now, more careful with her energy, more attentive to her body's signals, but present, alive, engaged. Tom watched his wife return and fell in love with her all over again. Emma and Lucas got their mother back. The classroom got its enthusiastic teacher back. The church got its tireless volunteer back. But Rachel came back changed. She couldn't forget the lost time, the doctors who'd dismissed her, the specialists who'd implied it was all in her head. The isolation of suffering, while everyone offered prayer without presence, platitudes without practical help. She thought about other people sitting in doctors' offices right now, being told their issues were stress or anxiety or attention-seeking. She thought about other sick people in churches, praying for miracles while treatable conditions went unrecognized. And she decided to do something about it. Rachel started teaching a class at church on medical self-advocacy, how to research your condition, how to ask for second opinions, how to trust your instincts when something feels wrong, how to be persistent with doctors who dismiss you, how to bring advocates to appointments, how to not accept vague explanations without exploring other possibilities. She trained church members to be observant, to notice when someone's signs don't match their diagnosis, to ask careful questions, to offer practical help, not just prayers but presence, to trust that sometimes God's answer comes through medical knowledge and sharp observation rather than supernatural intervention. Jennifer co-taught the classes. Together, they created a medical advocacy team within the church. Nurses, doctors, EMTs, and trained volunteers who would accompany members to difficult medical appointments, help research confusing conditions, advocate for proper testing. They helped a 60-year-old man discover his anxiety was actually a heart arrhythmia. They helped a young mother learn her child's behavioral problems were actually absence seizures. They helped an elderly woman realize her age-related decline was actually B12 deficiency. One case at a time, they taught people to pay attention, to speak up, to fight for themselves and each other. Rachel's classroom reflected her transformation too. When teaching biology units, she emphasized the importance of listening to your body. During reading lessons, she chose books about people who persevered through challenges. She taught her third graders that being sick doesn't make you weak, and asking for help doesn't make you a burden. One afternoon, a little girl raised her hand. "Mrs. Morrison, my mommy is sick all the time. The doctors say there's nothing wrong, but she hurts everywhere." Rachel knelt beside the child's desk, her knees no longer aching. "Can you tell your mommy something for me? Tell her to keep asking questions. Tell her to bring someone with her to the doctor. Tell her it's okay to get a second opinion. And tell her that being sick isn't her fault." The little girl nodded seriously. "I'll tell her." Rachel gave the child's mother her phone number that evening. Within 2 months, the woman had an answer. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, another rare condition that mimicked fibromyalgia. She started treatment. She got better. Rachel kept a list of the people her advocacy had helped. Jennifer's name was at the top in permanent marker. Underneath it, dozens more. The list grew longer each year. 18 months after her correct diagnosis, Rachel stood at the front of the church during a Wednesday night service. The pastor had asked her to share her testimony. She gripped the podium, her hands steady now, and looked out at faces she'd known for years. "I prayed for healing for a long time," she said. "I begged God to fix me. I asked what I'd done wrong. Why? He was silent. Why? He didn't answer." Her voice caught. Tom sat in the front row, tears already streaming down his face. "But God wasn't silent," Rachel continued. "He was working through a nurse who noticed my shaking hands at a potluck. Through medical research and persistent advocacy. Through a specialist who ordered the right test. Through treatment that gave me my life back. I wanted a miracle from heaven. God gave me Jennifer instead." She found Jennifer in the third row and locked eyes with her friend. Sometimes God's answer to our prayers doesn't look like we expect. It looks like someone who pays attention. Someone who refuses to let us suffer alone. Someone willing to speak up when something isn't right. Jennifer wiped her eyes, remembering the long nights of research, remembering her own grief transformed into purpose. Remembering how saving Rachel had saved something in herself too. Rachel's voice steadied. Faith isn't just about praying and waiting for miracles. It's about showing up. Being present. Using the knowledge and gifts God's given us. Trusting that sometimes healing comes through medicine and advocacy and community, and that's no less sacred than supernatural intervention. She closed her eyes briefly. Thank you, God, for Jennifer's sharp eyes. For her medical training. For her willingness to speak up. For making her walk through grief that sharpened her attention. Thank you for answering my prayers through ordinary people doing extraordinary things. The congregation erupted in applause. Jennifer ducked her head, overwhelmed. But she felt it. That loosening in her chest again. The sense that her suffering hadn't been wasted, that God had been working even when she couldn't see it. Rachel descended from the platform and walked straight to Jennifer's row. She pulled her friend into a fierce embrace. "You saved my life," she whispered. "Thank you for not looking away." Jennifer held her tight, Thank you for letting me help." Around them, the church family pressed close. The community that had prayed faithfully, that had supported with meals and presents, that had sustained Rachel through the darkest valley. They were learning together what it meant to be the hands and feet of Christ. Not just to pray from a distance, but to notice, to advocate, to fight. Sometimes God's answer to our prayers looks like a nurse with sharp eyes sitting across from you at a church potluck. Rachel learned that healing can come through community as much as through doctors, and that faith communities are meant to be observant, persistent, and willing to speak up. Sometimes saving a life is as simple as paying attention,